Okay, here we're starting off with a chisel which has been freehand honed. We want to grind back the hollow primary bevel. I'm going to do that on a high-speed bench grinder. I'm going to show you how to do that freehand and then how to freehand hone that newly created primary bevel on some bench stones. Okay, you start by setting your tool rest, and I've got a shop built one here, but you can use the metal one that comes with the grinder as well if you like. You want to set it to the existing bevel because we're just grinding away what we've honed. So we want to grind right to the edge. I'm not going to actually grind the tip, I'm going to grind right to the edge of the tool. So we set the angle to the existing bevel. If we were changing the bevel, we might set it with this simple piece of wood, block of wood, to 30 degrees or 25. One thing to note is if you're doing freehand honing using the method I'm going to show here, you set the grinding bevel angle and the honing bevel are the same. So in this case I'm going to set the grinding angle at 30 degrees. If I was using a honing guide, I'd probably grind 25 degrees and then hone a secondary bevel at 30 degrees or whatever I wanted. So the easiest way in this case though is just to set the bevel up against the wheel, check you're roughly on it. You can always spin the wheel a little bit and just see where the scratch marks are. Okay, I think we're roughly there. And the trick with grinding on a high-speed bench grinder, and I was always scared of these for many years, is just to take things slow because it removes metal very quickly and it heats up the tool very quickly, even with a cool running wheel like I've got on here. But if you stop frequently and use your fingers just behind the blade as heat sensors, dip frequently in water, it's actually not too difficult to avoid overheating the edge of the tool. And you'll know if you've overheated it. First of all, if you're holding your fingers on, you'll burn your fingers badly, and secondly you'll see the back edge of the blade first go a sort of straw colour and then go blue, and when it's gone blue then you've lost the temper of the steel and you'll actually have to grind back through that. So the trick is to use a light touch, stop frequently, perhaps dip in water. You don't have to dip in water, but it's quite a good system to get into because it slows you down a bit. As soon as your fingers feel a bit of warmth just behind the blade, dip it in water, wave it around a little bit and then continue. And as you get closer and closer to the edge, to this edge of the tool, then you need to go even more slowly. Okay, so let's go. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but I've tried to get as close to the edge of the bevel as possible with not going all the way to the edge. So you actually, in this case, won't feel a burr at the back. If you do go right to the edge, you've got to be very careful. And if you do it for too long, you'll almost definitely burn the steel. So yeah, I've got very close to the edge now. Now when I take this to the bench stones, I can start to hone until I feel a burr along the back. But the main thing is I've got a lot less area to hone than I did before. So let's move across to the bench stones then. Okay, now we have the hollow grind off the bench grinder. We're able to use the advantage of this hollow to rest the bevel very easily on the stone, because if you imagine the curve of the hollow grind gives you 2 points that rest very positively on the stone, and you'll feel this as you rock the bevel onto the stone. Now depending on how wide your blade is and how thick the metal is, will affect how easy or difficult it is to hone freehand. The thicker and wider the blade, the easier it is. And on a 2.25 inch thick Veritas or Lee Nelson plain blade, it really is quite straightforward to rest this bevel on the stone, which is what we're going to do. I find I change my grip slightly depending on how wide and thick the metal is. On narrower blades I tend to hold the tool loosely with the right hand and then rock the bevel until I can almost hold it just with these fingers, however many you need for the width of the blade. Okay, so if I squirt a little bit of oil on here, I can rock, you can almost hear it click, and then just push it away from you. It's almost foolproof. Just feel the bevel, push it away. When you start off, it's a lot easier to just do one direction, just use one direction. What we're trying to get here is a burr all the way along the back of the edge, which we've already got. It doesn't take very long because it's just being ground, and you can see the width of that polished metal has increased slightly, and you can also see it at the back here as well. So anyway, we've done enough work on this redstone already, and all I'm using here for demonstration purposes is one bench stone, just to show that the setup cost for sharpening really is not very high. Beyond sharpening the sandpaper, this is almost the cheapest. You could probably buy a fine diamond stone for £25–30, a good one. Get something like a DMT or an Easy Lap or a Trend. Just a fine stone is enough if you're using a grinder as well, generally. And then I'm going to finish it off on a piece of MDF with some honing compound. I'm actually using a Autosol, which is like a metal polish. You could use some Tormek honing paste. You could use something like this, which is like a Veritas green compound, which is you just rub on the MDF and then strop away. The main advantage of going to this strop, which is what it is really, is to remove the burr, because it's quite difficult to get rid of the fine burr off this redstone. Just on the redstone, you'll keep chasing it backwards and forwards, especially with diamond stones, which cut quite aggressively. So you can really feel it here. I can actually have a go at removing it here on the redstone, doing a little bit of chasing back and forward, back and forth, until I feel comfortable that I've got most of it got rid of. So that's pretty close, and that'll already be pretty sharp, and you can actually feel a little catch on your fingernail, which is a nice initial test for sharpness. And for a lot of jobs you could actually stop there even. I do have stones going up to much higher grits, but I'm just trying to show you that you don't need that much to get a sharp edge. Just to quickly explain the other grit that I would use on a wider tool, like say a bench, a plane iron. There it's a little bit tricky to sort of hold it like this. You don't need to, you've got a very big bevel, and there in that case you can actually hold it loosely with this hand, put all the pressure on the front there, and then do it more on the sort of pull stroke. So you can like that, okay? But on narrower tools, this is probably okay, but on narrower tools I find it easier to do the grip I showed initially. So now let's move to the strop. You can get this in this sort of metal polish in any motor shop. Squeeze a little bit on, like that. Rub it around a bit with your finger. Okay, then exactly the same motion. You can see that this is actually fairly harsh and is removing the still more metal. It's probably actually a little bit abrasive, this stuff, but it does, you know, it's sort of doing the job because it brings up a shine. But the main thing you're really doing here is removing any traces of burr that remain. A good way of testing that you've sort of got rid of the burr is the older paper test, but is to actually, if it's very sharp, you should be able to actually just push the blade into the paper like that. Another test for sharpness is the old favourite. You can see there hopefully where I've shaved. And the real test is to shave some end grain of softwood like pine.